Hi, welcome back to the, I guess, kind of unofficial Grey Works Talk podcast. You are joined by half of the Sinister Six. I am the Grey Goblin, Michael Hegwood. I am joined today by two very special guests, Josh from Afternoontune and Lamar Cherraime from the creator of Captain Zero, an upcoming indie superhero animation scene. Josh, what have you been doing lately?
We've been posting videos up on YouTube now, youtube.com, the Afternoon Tune. We just recently posted a video right there of our worst of. Our best of is going to be also coming up there. We're also going to be doing our most anticipated things in 2024. That video is going to be coming up pretty soon. Review-wise, our latest review, we just reviewed Night Swim. We reviewed that horror movie that came out. And then this Friday, we're going to be doing the movie American Fiction, which starred Jeffrey Wright. We're going to be doing a review for that.
Yeah, my buddy Mac, he said that might be like his favorite movie of last year. But I see you're also talking about what was it? The Blood and Honey.
Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Yeah, this was on our worst of list. I think this was on all of our worst of lists.
Yeah, it did look good, man.
Yeah, so this was pretty bad, and they're doing more of these. They're doing like a Pinocchio one. They're going to be doing a Bambi one. They're going to be doing a Mickey Mouse one.
Yeah, it's just they're cheap to make. And Lamar, you are the creator of the upcoming animated superhero series, Captain Zero.
Yes.
Very cool stuff. Very cool news. All that stuff with Keith David as of late. It's one of those things. I've been doing my own SAG paperwork, but it's a lot of paperwork.
It's a lot of paperwork.
It's a lot of paperwork. I get it. I'm there for actors. I'm there for animators, but also starring in this is going to be Keith David, who is going to be kind of loosely connected to Spider-Man because he was one of the voice actors in Spectacular Spider-Man.
Played Tombstone.
Yeah, it's just one of those things of when you need kind of just a cooler old man voice. It's like the voice choices are Keith David, Ron Perlman, or J.K. Simmons. Pretty much. So kind of down the business. Spider-Man 2 for the PlayStation 4 recently came out, and my friends have been talking to me about it. I haven't played it yet, but I did play the original Spider-Man PS4 game, as well as the DLC extra game, Miles Morales game, whatever you want to call that. Not technically sequel, but and that kind of reminded me of Spider-Verse. I rewatched Spider-Verse. The Spider-Verse came out it was actually set around Christmas and New Year's Eve, and so it's I like Spider-Man. Let's talk about Spider-Man. It's just because I say my relationship with Spider-Man is just he's a lot of people don't know this because I'm more of my writing history has been more fantasy and horror, but I'm a fairly big superhero fan, and Spider-Man is just one of those characters that's just kind of very easy to love, kind of. And then when this, and it's one of those things that's it's kind of like Ninja Turtles for me. Of almost every iteration has just something to love. And it's just when you get into it, you'll put it off for a while, then you'll just you'll get into it again, a show or a movie. And it's just been so many versions, and you just kind of come back to it. It's just I really, really love this. And what's your guys' relationship with Spider-Man, Josh?
Relationship with Spider-Man, I've basically seen, I think, all the Spider-Man movies there is, live action wise, animated wise. I've read the comics before. I'm trying to read more on Miles Morales. His run. I've heard from some people different runs where he's in there, which is the best to read. But it's been kind of interesting seeing Miles Morales kind of come up, and I was trying to think of who's probably had the same similar level of success being another version of a legacy character, and I can't.
Closest you can kind of make would be Barry Allen, because a lot of people know him as the Flash, but if I can very slightly get into it, just the kind of Miles Morales has kind of maintained a status as something a lot of legacy or even kind of sidekick characters never really achieved, of just kind of usually if this was their thing, he'd just be kind of forgotten. But the thing was, when he first appeared, I believe comics kind of like have a standard sale for the most part, and like even like very well done comics don't sell like that many comics. They sell like 200,000 I think is like the average, or like something that's considered pretty good. And then Miles, but like his initial run just kind of like shot through that when he was first introduced. But kind of sadly, despite like after his initial introduction, he didn't like as a run, especially in the Bendis run. He kind of didn't get a ton of play, and like a lot of people kind of ditched the characters, kind of because I'm going to say this. I think Michael Bendis is a very, very sweet man, but I'm kind of mixed on him as a writer because a lot of his characters can kind of come off as dull, or he wants to tackle some subjects that he's not as well versed of. But
I know what you mean.
I mean, there's like three things to talk about, like, but yeah, Miles was initially like he was considered a very like a interesting like breath of fresh air because like when he came out, like not only does he have like unique abilities from Peter, but like he kind of started to be like, oh, this is going to be like his own thing, and kind of sadly, he just kind of for like 4-ish years, he just kind of stayed in stasis. Like he would just team up with like other superheroes. He would just kind of be like a average kind of quiet kid. He was basically Peter 2.0. And then Spider-Verse came along that showed like, no, Miles can be a very cool, fun character. And it was this brand new animation style and like a tribute to all things Spider-Man and all that stuff that it just made the character super popular, and he just kind of shot through. Something I have noticed though, with some of my friends who know Miles from like Spider-Verse and have tried to get into his other stuff, like I remember my friend like texted me when he was like playing the Miles Morales game. He's like, "Why is Miles such a wimp in this? Like, why is he such a blank piece of wood, like personality wise?" It was one of those things because Spider-Verse is kind of considered like almost like the true like definer of Miles, as well as like a lot of Spider-Man stuff. But he is getting better runs, I should say, as of late. He has been having more of a personality, and even very slightly, he's been getting his own rogues gallery. He has like 3 original, but like that's a big step for a superhero. Yeah, Lamar, what are your thoughts on Miles and Spider-Man stuff like this, or just Spider-Man in general?
So for me, I'm more of a film television person. I've never read too many comic books. Like I've definitely read a couple, but not any specifically of like Miles. I've read a couple of Spider-Man comics though. So my I knew of Miles' introduction when he was first introduced in Ultimate Spider-Man because it was like a really big thing. It was like, holy shit.
Oh yeah, everyone.
So, yeah. That definitely piqued my interest. But I really started to get interested in Miles when Into the Spider-Verse came out, which still to this day I will say is a perfect movie. Right. I still have Into the Spider-Verse ranked higher than Across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, me too.
We'll
get to that later.
Yeah, for story and thematic reasons. But yeah, no, that was so I would really say that like Into the Spider-Verse was my first kind of like real in-depth to Miles as a character, a person, his personality. And I really liked that characterization of Miles and his current iteration as well. So yeah, that's kind of to the extent of my knowledge about Miles and his world.
Yeah, it's obviously the TV stuff is kind of how like we have Michael when he's like I grew up like I was 9. I was like I would watch the TV, but then I would try to like get into the comics. I remember I got so mad when I found out that in the comics, Virgil, his name is Static in the comics. I'm like, it's so
that's not the name.
It's Static Shock.
It's called Static Shock, but that's not the name of the character.
Yeah, it's not but yeah, I kind of grew up from that, and yeah, it's like it's really interesting how all these shows and movies have been like being able to influence the kinds of characters and stuff like that. And when Spider-Verse came along, it certainly did not create this animation style of like mixing 2D and 3D that's been around for like ages, and we've even seen stuff like I'd say like Miles and Peter style of animation of like kind of like but it was never really done to this extent at this point yet. And so that was another thing that just like, kind of shot through. And that trailer that came out that kind of just got everyone hooked.
Yeah, no, that trailer's got to be like top 5 trailers of all time, to be honest. Like, I can't think of another time. Well, I mean, I could think of a few. But like,
yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Only a few other times where like a trailer like that really, really moved people. Like, there's the Into the Spider-Verse trailer. There's like the Avengers Endgame trailer. There's like, dang.
Yeah.
Madam Web, that trailer.
Oh yeah, the world stopped when Madam Web dropped.
Yeah.
Oh god, that CW looking iteration of Spider-Man. I'm like, what's happening here? I like the suits, beautiful gowns.
Yeah.
Like
it's a team of 3 superhero ladies, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing that's also kind of sad, because it's like, I actually really like, well, maybe not the concept, but I really like the idea of a movie that has all of these other Spider Women in it.
Yeah.
I really like that idea. I just, from the looks of it, it doesn't.
I would watch it if the person that cast as Madam Web was like an actual old woman, but everyone else was like young and fit. Like, cast an old lady.
Yeah, somebody suggested Jamie Lee Curtis would have been good.
Maybe. But yeah. Spider-Verse was just one of those movies that came out and just like everyone saw and just kind of has like universal praise, and then just kind of re-centered why people love the character of Spider-Man just so much.
Oh man.
You know what I also really like about this movie, and something I've complained about to death when it comes to like kind of more modern superhero movies? It doesn't treat you like you're dumb or that you don't know the character of Spider-Man.
Yeah, it goes in assuming all of those things.
Oh yeah, and you even get the origin like a little bit and stuff like that. It's like, well, yeah, you already know the story. Here's what happened. But it's like, even if you don't get that origin, that's why it's still such a cool thing. It's just like, bam, we're just going along with the action. It's just, the character of Spider-Man. It's just like, we don't need to see like Batman's parents get shot again in the street. Just like skip it. Stuff like that. And
like the comic book rundown idea was like a genius way to convey to the audience, like, okay, like here's all the stuff that you know. All right, boom. Now we're just gonna jump right into it.
Yeah. Honestly, I say the only movie that was like more like as overall stylized as Spider-Man was probably like Edgar Wright's Scott Pilgrim versus the World movie, in terms of like everything it could do, and it even has kind of like the animatic and comic thing. After that, like I think one of the reasons why it also works so much, it's like because it brought so much to the character of like both Peter being like, allowed to basically be an adult and kind of like almost like complete his arc with it ending up with him marrying Mary Jane, and he's like in his 40s and stuff like that. But then it's also like it just gave so much kind of character to not only Miles, but kind of like his environment in general. Just like New York itself feels like an actual city, an actual place, and it feels like a real like Brooklyn. Because this was kind of an issue I had with when I played the Miles pact in the Insomniac games. It was that, it's gonna sound me, but like New York was a bit too nice, a bit too idealized. Like everything just felt like super like positive. Here, yeah, no one's gonna be like as mean as they would be in real life New York, but it's like it treats you like he's an outsider in like this preppy smart kid school and stuff like that, and he doesn't really fit quite as home with like his dad and stuff like that. Yeah. But it's one of those reasons. It's he kind of has that kind of now I know I'm kind of stepping back a bit, like he's kind of like a good, like another version of kind of more Peter Parker, because Peter Parker is very relatable, especially back in the day. But now Miles is kind of like, he's relatable, but in his own way, especially to a much like larger generation, like new comic writers and stuff like that. Yeah, you it's like when you find out like the origin behind like every comic writer from that area who wrote Spider-Man. It's like, oh, this is why all these characters are like this. It's like, yeah, and that was also something that got a lot of praise from this movie. Was kind of like the more acknowledgement of like the Jewish roots when it came to Spider-Man. Like that. And, like even the fact that like when Peter B. Parker, I think, got married, you see him like smashing the glass.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's always kind of been a theme, but like, especially at that time, I even remember some like writers and like big, even like talk show hosts would even like change their last names because they're like, your last name is too Jewish, it sounds too ethnic. You got to go with something else. Yeah. Larry King also had that. I think his name was like Motzowitz or something, and he got told by someone it's like too ethnic or stuff like that.
Crazy.
Yeah.
John Stewart, I think the same thing with him. He changed his name.
Funny enough, my dad's mom did that because when she was in England, she was Polish and she had a Polish last name, and like she just got like, I'm not sure if it was harassed or she wouldn't get hired, but she's like, screw it, I'm changing it, and then she went to America.
Wow.
Yeah, it's one of those things, but yeah, but now we have Miles, who just has like a great like representation of like his family life, and he just feels like an actual kid.
Yeah,
and you do kind of get like kind of the outsiderness a bit of like both being just from like his dad's a cop and his uncle is just kind of distant and lets him relax when he gets there. He's an actual character on like the comics where he's just kind of a psychopath at first. What were some, like, when you guys first saw it, what were some highlights or praises that you had for the movie?
Man, well, obviously off rip, the visual animation style is the most captivating. I mean, even right from the credits, from you seeing, the Spider 52, the Comics Authority Code, all of that, like right away, it really, really gets you with those visuals. So that really stunned me. As a writer, the part that was probably one of the most intriguing to me, even now when I go back and I've rewatched it, is just how captivating that very first scene is when you're seeing the other Peter Parker, the Peter Parker in Miles's universe, dying and essentially like telling Miles, like, you have to do this, like, do this for me. And I'm like, oh my God, like it happens like 10 minutes into, watching it. And I'm like, in such a short span of time, they already pull you in like so great with the character in the world, and you automatically get invested. And that's something that I've always really, really loved. Anytime I go back to revisit that movie, that still sticks out to this day. Another thing is, to your point of what you're saying, the characterization of Uncle Aaron. Very often the Prowler in comics, in his specific way that he's described, he's more of a loose cannon, versus in this version actually giving you a more grounded, fully well fleshed out like character, even though we do find out that, like, oh my God, like, spoiler alert for people who haven't seen it, but Uncle Aaron is the Prowler. Still, there is this very interesting dynamic that we see between Peter and between Miles and Uncle Aaron. Like, the very scene where he finds out that Miles is the Spider-Man that he's been chasing after, and how immediately, like, his entire demeanor changes, and you see that he was quite literally going to let Miles go until he's shot and killed by Kingpin.
You get the sense that like he's just like not like even like that bad of a bad guy, like still a bad guy, but like kind of like you can see like his path possibly going down a different route, but like it just probably got him so much money, and it was just probably easier for him to do, and like he probably felt he was too far gone. But yeah, I love that scene of like his last talk with him and Miles, like as he like rests him down. The one that made a lot of people cry in the theaters.
Oh my God, you're the best of us, Miles. Man, Mahershala Ali. But oh my God, stellar performance. That part was amazing. Like, the heart of that movie, like, I still say to this day, like, that movie came out in like 2018.
A long time ago, like 5 years ago.
2018, right? Crazy. We were in a different world then. But Like, I remember when that film came out and I saw it in theaters like 4 times. I was like, this film is deserving of like a Best Picture nomination.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. It's funny enough. Wreck-It Ralph 2 came out the same year, and Disney was so confident it was going to win. Actually, made advertisements for Wreck-It Ralph 2, like on the box, like the best Oscar winner or something like that. It was an animation winner, but then Spider-Verse came out and won. It's just like, goddamn.
Oh my god, no, crushed them. Like that film has, like, I literally consider it a perfect movie because it has everything a film should have. It has great character, great action, great visuals, great editing. It's got heart, it's got humor, it's got drama, it's got action. It's got like everything you could want in a movie, it has. And it delivers on all those things. It fires on every single cylinder.
It's got Nicolas Cage as a 1930s detective.
It's like, come on, man. Like, what more? Like, unless you got Beyonce somehow, like that's the only way you could have made it better somehow. But like, it's like no, like they did a phenomenal job on that first film.
Oh, not that she's in it, Beyonce, but like that's also like I've never seen a superhero movie utilize music like this, at least to the same extent. Closest would be like kind of Guardians, but that's done in like a different manner. Here it's just like, but also like everyone knows that "What's Up, Danger" scene. Everyone knows even just the scenes of just like Miles walking around is just like so incredible. Josh, what kind of like what stuck out to you when you saw this movie?
So you talking about both of them? You want me to talk about both, or just across?
Either or, just like the big thing.
I'll start with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse first. So yeah, I mean, hugely, big task by the animators there to do this, to animate all these different styles there, bringing the character Miles Morales, him be the lead of it, really carry the story. I thought that was really good. I think a lot of people remark that this is probably where he's the most interesting, to me, as opposed to video games or the comics. I mean, this is probably where best they've done with him as a character. So I thought that was really good. I think, yeah, the other Spider-Men, other Spider people are good, and that's a nice addition. But I still think, they do a good job even with all those extra characters, and something that now in superhero media is kind of overdone now. The whole alternate universe and timelines and cameo characters. It's like this feels like this doesn't like the cameos aren't what you're there to really see the movie for. That's just the icing on top. The story and the writing and Miles Morales, I think, is what you're really there for, and see his journey there. And the other fun Spider-Man, like in Across the Spider-Verse, new Spider-Man that people can love, like Spider-Punk got a lot of attention in this one.
He might have been my favorite from the second movie.
I love him. I have so many critiques for the Across the Spider-Verse, but that one, I'm like, no, that was perfect. Yeah, Hobie Brown, 10 out of 10.
Yeah. He feels like a character that could have been like really annoying, but it's like I don't know if it's like the voice actor or the writing or
the execution. But my God, like and when you think about it, if you look at all of his lines, it's like it's not that much.
Yeah.
He's not that prominent in it, but like, man, talk about a scene stealer. Like
I do kind of wonder though if they had to put like an epilepsy warning at some of the screenings, just because I was thinking of like some scenes in Spider-Verse 2, especially like kind of Hobie scenes, because he's always like changing colors a bit and stuff like that. It's like, man, I hope no one got hurt watching this movie.
I hope so too.
Such as like for the characters, but also like as you mentioned, Josh, all the extra cameos and stuff like that, and like the other Spider people. I remember kind of a complaint in like, I'm not sure if it's like Marvel or DC, just like general stuff. It's just like, because I haven't seen the Flash, but like they're saying like it's kind of like they're almost like putting it out there too much, and then it's just like it's whatever. Like the cameos are just there to get people in seats. But in Spider-Verse, a lot of the cameos are more characters from like all the extra Spider-Verse people, and it's more done to introduce different plot lines. All that. And at the end joke of Spider-Verse is literally a cameo joke, but you don't mind it because it's like well, if we don't get in there Spider-Verse thing, like this is good enough. Like it's just like a fun thing of like showing back to the 60s show.
Yeah.
Spider-Man's been around for a long time. But stuff like that. then Spider-Man, Spider-Verse 2 came out and all that stuff. Was it the most successful? No, it was the Mario Bros. I was thinking I was thinking of all the list of like the top 10 like anime movies that like made it big. Like did it make the most? Like I wouldn't be shocked if it did. But yeah, Spider-Verse 2 came out and like just was like one of the huge sellers of 2023. The only movies I think beat it out like financially was stuff like Barbie and like Mario Bros. And
I think did The Little Mermaid?
No,
that one barely.
Guardians did better.
That was weird. Yeah,
I know Guardians did better.
Oppenheimer did better.
Okay, yeah. And I'm also trying to think of like the animation budget and stuff like that.
Yeah, the budget for this one was it 90 or 100? I should look it up. I'm guessing.
Yeah. Yeah. It does kind of show like even though everyone's like I'm tired of superheroes, I don't want to see like a Marvel movie or an MCU movie or the new Flash movie. The Spider-Verse came out, it just like everyone's like, no, I want to see this, and it shows that like not only is the kind of the character and like mantle of Spider-Man just so likable that people will see that, but it's also like no, these are good on their own as well, and they're like they don't have to be connected. And I will say I have more issues with this than the other Spider-Verse movie, but like I do like the risk that it took when you compare it to I don't know, kind of like the more big grand scheme stuff.
I will always reward any filmmaker, any creative for taking a risk.
Yeah.
You know, that is definitely something that's missing in a lot of modern media, actually trying to push the envelope. So respect to the filmmakers for definitely taking a lot of risks in this film. And I think a good chunk of those risks paid off, you know? Not all of them, but a good chunk of them.
Yeah, this movie certainly has a somewhat divisive second half. I would say spoilers, but I know if you're watching this, you've seen Spider-Verse. Everyone in America has seen Spider-Verse. But yeah, with kind of the stuff of the Spider Society as well as Miguel, as well how it kind of does canon events, which has got what people kind of upset or like they thought it was kind of weak of like every Spider-Man just kind of following Miguel's orders. They came to like Miles's dad must die and stuff like that. However, I think my kind of big problem also kind of comes from I do feel like the second, like a lot of the there's so much characters and so much stuff in this movie. I don't think they're as well utilized as they were in the first one or brought to their full potential. Like Jessica Drew, like barely has like stuff to do in this movie, and she has like 6 like poster cards about her. It's yeah, the production of this movie was insane.
Oh yeah, I mean, I even know all the production stories of the various things that were going on making this movie. My hope is that the animators get better treatment on Beyond the Spider-Verse. But no, I definitely agree with that point. I think that in Into the Spider-Verse, they did a far better job of integrating the other Spider people and making their stories just as interesting, while also still having Miles at the center. For me, my biggest gripe with Across the Spider-Verse is it seems like we're getting all these other characters shoehorned in. They're not as developed, with the exception of Gwen, and Miles is kind of taking a backseat to his own story.
Yeah, I think that was kind of
feels like what is happening here. Like, this is supposed to be about Miles, his world, his journey, and it seems like he's literally in competition with Gwen for whose story is this really for the second one. And don't get me wrong, everything with Gwen I loved, especially all of the scenes in Gwen's world, the way that they utilize color, visual subject.
Yeah,
absolutely gorgeous. But from a storytelling perspective, it just kind of feels like, I don't know, I feel a little cheated as an audience member, because the thing that made me love these movies was the fact that, like, we're getting to see Miles's story. And when we get to Across the Spider-Verse, it's like, oh, I mean, it's kind of Miles' story. It's like a little bit of his story, but it's also kind of Gwen's story. So that was a little like,
I do feel like two antagonists. I don't think they're bad, but I do think they are kind of like not fully utilized the way they should be. With Spot like kind of like presenting him as like a joke villain or a villain of the week or just like someone to be made fun of. I don't think they really accentuate that as much as like why. I get why Spot would be as bitter as him, but I feel like he should have been like almost like instead of having a montage of like Miles like punching other villains where he was like doing his like okay one more time. I think it should have just been like a montage of him just humiliating Spot because I really like Spot kind of going on like a training arc. It's like I need this stuff, but I feel like his relationship with Miles is almost like nebulous. And Miguel, I think I would like his arc kind of character more if either like Miles pushed more like against him personally, like I'm like I wasn't the one that did that to your universe or stuff like that, or if like he was more in the movie as like an overlooming threat. Because I rewatched it not too long ago. I still really like it, but like once it goes from like Miles talking and then Gwen enters, it kind of becomes like a different movie. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot about this. Josh, was there any things you thought were weaker, or do you think it was like way stronger than the first one? Or
when we did the review for it, I remember saying comparing it to the first one and how does it stack up against it. I think basically it is on par with the first one. I think the only difference is this: it's not. We don't know. It's not a really complete story there yet. Even though I think it does have an ending. It's a part one of another story, so a part two is coming to it to wrap it all up. So you have to see how they're going to handle that and what they're going to do with those elements and how they're going to tie everything up and finish everything off. So I will say that is kind of one criticism there, even though I don't have a problem with the ending. I know some people and I could kind of see that complaint of like going like it's not
Did you hear about the thing with the animators that came out like a month ago about the ending?
The
shot of like Gwen being like, I formed my own band, and then you see all the Spider-Verse people and stuff like that. That wasn't originally in the script or the finished product. As they were like shipping out the movie for like 6 weeks, they're like, "All right, bring all the animators in and make this scene," which was like it must have been like a crazy thing to do.
And that wasn't the only time they did that during production. There were multiple times. There's multiple animators who have come out and voiced that like pretty much all of production was kind of like that. They would finish and build out entire scenes completely animated, fully rendered, and then the directors would come back and be like, "No, we don't want this. We want something else. We want to change it, or we want to add more stuff or take things out." And they would have to go back and completely rebuild it from the ground up, which is
insane.
Again, just more indicative of just like a very terrible workflow, because anybody who works in animation understands that like the various stages that you have to take from, script to storyboard to animatic to close rendering to final render. All of those steps, like if you are still trying to make tweaks and changes to the story, you do that at the animatic level.
That's what happened with That's what happened with Jessica. Actually, I'm not sure if it was last month. It was something like that, like maybe last 2 to 3 months. It was like she was going to be like Jessica in the comics, like white, but then there was an older comic of the first Tactical Spider-Woman who was like a librarian, and she was black. But then they're like, okay, let's make it like this. And it's gray and all, but it's like you did not give these animators enough time. Like they gave them like a 2 months notice, like reanimate all her scenes. It's like that's crazy, dude.
That is absolutely insane. For anybody watching who wants to make an animated project, don't do that to your animators. Make all your changes at the animatic stage, and even better at the storyboard phase if you can. But again, which is why I made the comment of saying I really do hope that the animators get far better treatment in Beyond the Spider-Verse than they did in the second one, because I heard that the second one was absolute like hell. Like they boasted the fact that about how many animators that they hired, and this is like one of the most animators ever hired for a single project, and how that was like such a great, amazing thing. But anybody that knows anything about the film industry and how those things actually work is the reality is you could make a feature-length film, which this is. It's got like a little over a 2-hour runtime, so like 122-minute long film. You can make a film like that with 50 animators. There was over 1,000 animators that worked on this project.
Did
And it's like
you?
you really actually could have made it with 50, but the difference is, had you just hired 50 animators, you would have had to have paid them a certain rate
Yeah.
throughout the entire duration of animation. But you can save more money if you hire a bunch of animators to just animate, 2 scenes, a couple scenes here and there, or animate 1 minute. So then you have people that are literally making, chump change and the bragging rights of being able to say, hey, I worked on Across the Spider-Verse, which can be
That's cool. Yeah.
career-wise, to help you get that next job or get that next thing. But in terms of how you're actually treating the people that are working on this project, like it's not really something to boast about if you actually know the reasonings why they do these things. Like that's a purely financial, monetary thing. It has nothing to do with we care so much about employing animators. Like that's not what it is at all.
You hear about the thing with Mutant Mayhem, Teenage Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem? I'm not sure. I think it was Seth Rogen himself who said we want to make sure that the animators are not overworked and stuff like that. And it's they made sure it was a good working environment for them.
Shout out to Seth Rogen.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, good for that. But it's well, I do hate to praise this right after kind of critiquing it, but it's the animation and Across the Spider-Verse is just
it's gorgeous. No one's denying the quality. The quality is there, but it's dang, when I think about what it probably took to make that, the hours, the crunch time,
I remember when I first saw it, and I saw the vulture scene of once he goes up into the thing and then he sees the city and reflects in his light. I audibly said Jesus, I had a vocal response. It was just kind of crazy. All we get to see 1,000 new Spider people, all these various designs and stuff like that. With any of the new Spider characters, were there any ones that I mean, we've mentioned Hobie, but were there any other ones that really stuck out to you? Oh, I love that design, or I love that look.
Man,
Spider-Man India, I think, was another big one that people.
Oh yeah, Javier. Yeah,
that was another big one. Well, I don't know if this is a cheat because he was in the last one, but he has kind of a totally different design from what he was in the last one. But Miguel O'Hara has a somewhat of a different design. With Stinger there. People like Ben O'Reilly too. A lot of people liked him.
Oh yeah, I did really like the way they designed his suit and made it look like 90s comic book.
Yeah, you got some Spider-Man who are just 2D flat surfaces. I don't remember her regular name, but Spider Bites, the tech girl, I think.
Yes.
Her animation style is just really cool, of stuff like that. And I almost forgot, they incorporated some live action with Donald Glover and Andrew Garfield, stuff like that. Who's kind of the origin of Miles, weirdly enough.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. You created a comic book character. That's kind of cool. You know what I mean? You were the inspiration there.
Oh yeah, because of that
community.
Yeah,
the community thing, the Donald Glover for Spider-Man campaign.
Yeah, it's been years since watched it, but we got that and all there's 1,000 different styles going on at once. And for the most, sometimes when you get a series that has all these different styles, you could tell one character was prioritized over the other, or one looks way better, but all these just almost flawlessly interceived together. Even the little video game segment we see very briefly, it's very cool.
Or the Lego.
Yeah, by that 14-year-old kid.
Oh my gosh! Shout out to that kid, man. Shout out to him. That seems amazing.
Yeah.
I love how Miguel's thank you, Pete. You're one of the best. You're one of the best.
Yeah.
In all the universes.
Have you heard of this? I'm not sure, kind of criticism, but also just observation. I feel a lot of people make of the MCU, of that the fact there was a lot of Peter's characterization is kind of split between Ultimate Spider-Man and almost Miles's characterization he had in the comics initially. Because in the comics, his thing was that he had he went to a very special school, and his thing was that he wanted to work with superheroes like Iron Man, like people
Mm.
above him and stuff like that, like
Mm.
people like of a actual superhero status. And even his friend in the comics, Ned is a character, but he was like a character from like the '90s. He was like Peter's college roommate.
Mm.
But Ned does kind of bear a resemblance in the MCU, kind of bears resemblance to Genki, who's
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
like is a kind of like tech kid friend.
Always got to have the guy in the chair.
Yeah, you gotta have that. Maybe Spider-Bite will be that for Miles. Was she voiced by chick from The Bear? Was she?
No,
No.
Iowa Debris was the band member, like in Gwen's
Okay,
band.
I remember hearing her. She was in something like
Yeah.
she
I think
was in this to a degree.
does the girl who voices Spider-Man, was she the one from who played Rue and
Is it Amanda Steinberg? I was gonna say her.
I think it's her. I want to say.
Amanda.
I might be wrong. I think it's her though.
Oh no, yeah, you're right. It's Amanda Steinberg. Yeah,
Okay.
because I remember. Yeah, it's like she's just killing it in the fucking animation voice acting thing because she was also April O'Neil.
The People's Princess.
She won an Emmy or Oscar or I don't pay
An
attention.
Emmy.
Yeah.
She won an Emmy and a Golden Globe.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. Stuff like that. Trying to think. We also got. I'm curious, which antagonist do you like more in Spider-Verse 2, Spot or Miguel? I personally like Spot more because I think he's he's there more of a threat to. He has more of a relationship with Miles. I think him wanting to be a great superhero, kind of super villain to Miles, kind of reflects like a version of like all this pressure Miles's parents are putting on Miles to be something great. Like even the pressure Miles is putting on himself of like I have to be like the awesome Spider-Man.
No, I agree. I definitely think that Spot is the better villain, especially the way that we get to see his character evolve throughout the film. Him starting out as this kind of like awkward, lanky thing, and then when you get to like that scene where he's really, really imposing and essentially laying out his plan, like I really genuinely felt that moment in the theater. Like it felt legitimately terrifying when he was like, "I'm going to destroy everything you love," and it's like, oh my god. So no, I really, really do like the Spot as a main antagonist. I do think Miguel as an antagonist is interesting, especially because it's like a really interesting flip, the whole Spider Society thing, and being like, oh, this guy that you thought was going to be like on your side, now you're kind of like against this guy and he's like hunting you down now.
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting, but I would say the Spot over Miguel.
Actually, I heard this from your review or take, Josh, of Miguel was kind of meant to, when you were talking to Lamar, ironically enough, of he was meant to be like the kind of the bad fan reaction to like when Miles became Spider-Man. Like you're a mistake, you don't belong.
The director said that in an interview. They said that in the interview, asked them that question, and they were like, "Yep." They all said yes in unison. Yeah, pretty quickly too.
Yeah,
definitely gave that.
Yeah,
I definitely felt that in the theater. I was like, he's like, "You are a mistake. You're not supposed to be Spider-Man." I'm like, Miguel. Actually, at least I actually got bit by a spider. You're like a spider vampire.
Oh yeah.
I was like, boy, you need to get bit by a spider like the rest of us. If any one of us is not actually Spider-Man, it's you, Miguel.
Yeah. It's also kind of weird how 2099 isn't actually that far away right now. It's less than 100 years away, and we're nowhere near flying cars. Action scenes were incredible in this. I love the kind of creativity and just fun they were able to have with all the Spot's action scenes, especially when they were in Moonbatten. What was it called? Like it was like a mix between like India and like
and Manhattan.
Very fun, very creative, and all that stuff. I like, this is gonna sound, not that I like seeing like teenagers getting hit, but like I like how kind of rough this movie is able to treat Miles, especially in the finale. Like like after you see like kind of the damage he takes and stuff like that, like he looks bad, like he's got the torn thing, and he's got like he's exhausted, and he keeps on trying to like dodge people like from every side. Someone's like clipping him, or someone's got him. He just feels like he's barely able to get away.
Mhm.
Yeah. Was there any in either of these movies? Were there any like big fight or set pieces that you really liked?
Man, I in Across the Spider-Verse, I really loved when they're trying to attempt to save Patavar's world.
Oh yeah,
When like I thought that was like a really great set piece, how they're showing all the different Spider-Men, swing around and save the people and do all the things. I thought that was a really beautiful set piece. In Into the Spider-Verse, I mean, this is no brainer. It's the What's Up Danger scene.
oh yeah.
I mean, it's just like come on, just perfect. I think that's just universal. I think everybody for that scene in that moment. I'm trying to think if any other set pieces in. Oh, and then man, again, as frustrated as I am with the fact that they, gave Gwen so much runtime in exchange for Miles, I really gotta say, man, those scenes with Gwen are some of the most
Beautiful.
emotionally hard hitting. Like, the scene in the museum where her father, first catches her and, is reading her rights, and she's like, "Are you serious? Like, you're gonna do this again?" And then he shoots the gun. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my god.
Yeah.
Or,
Sean, yeah, it's just
when he shoots the warning shot, or even the scene when they're in their home, and they're like making up, or they're like in the middle of like having that conversation. You see it change to like that blue, and then she runs and hugs him, and then it turns pink. Like, those were some phenomenal set pieces.
it's almost like the most simple thing to say, but like just the way this movie utilizes color, like you can even see it with like Hobie when he turns pink around like Mayday, and Miles of like it's meant to imply he's more relaxed and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that they also put like on the side like what some of the Cockney slang he was using actually meant. Like Scooby.
Yeah.
It's like okay. It's nice to hear Daniel Kaluuya talking his like his accent. It's supposed to like he's kind of always doing like an American accent in movies, but it's like Josh, was there any big set pieces that you really loved?
Let's see. And Across the Spider-Man, of course, he always had to bring up when he's being chased by all the Spider-Men, all the Spider people. That took months and months to animate for the animators. That took forever for them to do that. That was a big one. What else was kind of another big one here? Man, Across the Spider-Verse. I think I mean Lamar was right. I mean the scene where they try to save the Spider-Man India, his father, his girlfriend's father there. I thought that was a really good sequence there, how they did that. Yeah. So that was, and then in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, I think the climax is really good there. I think that's really good where he fights Kingpin, where all that kind of comes to a head. I liked when you had the Chris Pine Spider-Man, their original Spider-Man there, and then he dies. He's fighting there, trying to handle all those villains. That was a good one too.
Incredibly charming. Yeah. I also kind of the go back a bit. While all the music and the animation get a ton of praise, the sound design in this movie is like really incredible. Like I remember.
Oh my god.
The Prowler's theme when
oh my god
goes up, you can actually hear like an elephant noise, like a siren in the back.
That noise, oh my god! Like some of the best sound design for sure. If it didn't win an award for sound design, that is a crime. Because like to the point where again it's like so recognizable. Even they do a similar thing in Across the Spider-Verse with like Miguel, and it's like a little different. But being able to have a distinct sound for a character whenever they show up, like that.
I've been talking to more music people. Like music in movies, especially in animation, it's a bit harder than it was in live action because there's more time to kind of like improvise with music. But like animation, everything's got to be playing and stuff like that. I think James Gunn talked about this. I think it's why Spider-Verse is his favorite superhero movies. Like because with animation, especially a superhero movie, everything has to be set in stone. You gotta make it. And with him, like he's like, with live action, you could kind of change a bit, but he's really impressed with how you could kind of like change movies like this. But that's another thing to praise. I feel, these are very high quality animated films. Like if anyone like said, "Hey, this is my favorite film," it's like, yeah, that makes sense. I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, also like in the even when they first appeared, there's like very small differences in their themes. But like when Spider Noir appears, it has more of like like a deeper, almost like windy sound to it, to kind of like give it more of a like a old school like darker theme. Yeah, Nicolas Cage might have the best line deliveries in these movies of like.
Burn a match down to my feet.
You're gonna box, you're just gonna chew gum. Something crazy like that. Movies. Yeah. I think Spider-Verse 2 it has a lot. Sorry, Spider-Verse 1 has a lot less to do, but it has a more kind of focused plot and a more kind of like a almost like more of a hero's journey with Miles.
Yeah,
and
also more character driven.
Yeah, other characters kind of show up to kind of like yeah, we're on this mission too. Here's a little bit of our backstory, but ultimately, like even though you like kind of know what we're fully doing, like this is you want to see Miles succeed a lot more in the first movie. I feel like that might just be my opinion, but like
oh no, for sure, yeah.
It's kind of like now you have to fight 1,000 Spider-Man. It's like it kind of loses me a bit. Like it almost gives me like sensory overload.
Yeah. When the stakes become too large, when it becomes like so,
But it's almost like a begrudging praise because it's like, well, I like Miles so much and I want to see like what his like I would be happy just seeing a movie of just like Miles dealing with family and like stuff like this, like and just like maybe have like one crime chase throughout the movie or something like that because like his home life is just like his relationship with his dad and his mom is just like kind of like so refreshing, especially for like superhero stuff.
Yeah, like I really care deeply, and I think audiences also feel the same. I think it's one of the reasons why Guardians of the Galaxy 3 ended up being one of the more popular superhero films that came out last year. It's because I think more and more what people really want is in these genre-specific films to still have these messages and themes that still connect to our humanity, who we are as people. And these are far more interesting than like things blowing up and people trying to take over the world. It's like that stuff is cool too. But the stuff that really grounds us, the thing that really makes us connect to things as humans is to see our lived life shared experience as humans reflected back to us. I think that's what made Into the Spider-Verse so great. I think that's what makes it a little harder for Across the Spider-Verse because we get that, but we get it all with Gwen. We're not getting it with Miles, who is the main character, the supposed main character. So yeah, I mean, shameless plug. But for me, that's also this particular vantage point that I always wanted to create with Captain Zero. I was like, which is why I tell people all the time, I'm like, I'm kind of lying to you when I tell you this is a superhero story, a superhero show, because it's actually kind of not. All of that stuff, it's happening and it's going on, but it's kind of in the backdrop. The stuff that is the far more important, far more interesting, far more refreshing thing is this journey that we're going on through with Xerxes in his interpersonal life, how his depression is affecting him, his family members, how he's showing up in the world. Will he actually be able to overcome it? All those kinds of things.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite scene in both these movies is the scene where it's not even an action scene or even when there's animation, like that strong of animation, but it's just when his dad Aaron goes to talk. No, his dad John. I forget. His dad goes to talk to him after Aaron's death, and Miles is like webbed up, and he can't really talk to him.
Yeah, and they're talking through the door.
Yeah, he just has to talk back. He's like, "I see this spark in you, and like I love you so much." It's just like you can just close your eyes and visualize that scene so well, and like even if that scene was like live action, it's just such a well done, like emotional scene. With props to the guy playing the dad too of
Brian Tyree Henry.
Oh yeah. Nice. Yeah. No, he's another one. I'm just trying to think, like, was he in both of them? Because I know sometimes they change actors and stuff like that. Yeah, he's great in this. I remember he made like a. I think he was like the first person to be in both a Marvel and DC movie the same year because he was in Joker as like a
It's like the
minor
desk clerk.
officer or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Orderly.
Yeah. I also think I can see how kind of the comics and even games to an extent are being influenced by Into the Spider-Verse stuff like that because you see more of like getting more kind of like writers who either know what they're talking about or like who are more experienced like that can like have Miles like be more of a kid and be more like feel more like an actual person from like Brooklyn and stuff like that. And it's just like it's one of those things of like when you're in such a like what we consider like the melting pot of America basically is like we see like all like even just like when we see him like in like downtown and like the first and second Spider-Man, just like so many like the different like shops and the different like people that work there and stuff like that, and like how kind of cliche what I'm going to say, but like how real it kind of feels of like also that guy's like selling him like the beef patties, like oh yep I know this gas station guy, just the like guy from another life, just like just do something for me and you might get something for free. It's like that's like an actual person. I'm trying to think because it's this one of those like series where there's just so much you kind of want to talk about. Also Miles's electricity absorption. I think that might have been done in Spider-Verse 2 first. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure. Like
no, he's had his venom. I don't think they always explicitly showed it as electricity.
Well, in the comics it's like
correct because I know he's always had the venom punch since his very first iteration. I don't know at what point did they actually start making it full-blown electricity because again I'm not super duper well versed on the comics.
In the second one he starts to like absorb electricity, like almost like he's a bit from like going like just full stack shock and doing like all this crazy stuff, but like it's like Kool-Aid's kind of breaking away from like kind of the like how he was originally viewed as just the Peter Parker replacement or like the new Peter Parker. It's just like no, you can have, and this movie also showed that like you could have two Spider-Man like operating and not be upsetting to people of like Peter's around and so is Miles and stuff like that. Despite the fact that like Peter's technically dead in his world, but it's like you can have those two interacted and not be super weird. And now in the comics and the games, they're showing up more and more. It's like now more people are like getting more comfortable, stuff like Miles, operate at the same time. I do remember. Did you ever see that Drake Bell Spider-Man show?
Yes.
I've seen some clips. Apparently Donald Glover voiced Miles in that.
He voiced Miles in that. Yeah, that was the very first
that's
time.
cool, but it's like his name was like Kid Arachnid or something.
I hated that.
Yeah.
They're like, we can't call you Spider-Man. That's
it's like screw it, call him Spider-Man. It's like I get he's like 14, but it's like Peter was 14 when he started. Josh, would you say now you've played the games and you've seen the movies, of course? Would you say you can notice a difference in their characters, or is there one character you like more than the other? Or
I feel like here in the movies, I think he's more fleshed out than in the games. I think it's better writing here. The games are decent. They do some good stuff there, but I think the movies are better in comparison.
I gotta give it up to his voice actor a bit of just kind of like accentuate Miles. He did a very good job as Miles. I do remember there was a clip going around of like people like why doesn't. I do think the voice actor for the video game does a very good job, but there's one scene where he kind of like the last line isn't that hard of delivery because he goes like, "What?" It's the Tinkerer. She's like, "Why do you keep on fighting?" He goes, "I am," but then he just goes Spider-Man. He just says Spider-Man. It's not like a big yell or anything like that. Funny enough, I almost had the chance to meet more at the first con I went to. but like it was right after Spider-Verse.
Mm.
I just saw the line; it was way too long. Like I could not do that.
Oh no! If you was a white woman, you would have got in front.
Oh,
I'm dead.
what was that? Like the whole didn't the second movie like parody his apology or something? Because
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
the
made a mistake.
the baby the talcum powder.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Maybe Rosa Parks shouldn't have taken an Uber. Maybe she should have just, maybe it was cool for her to take the bus like everybody else.
Was
Crazy.
it Grandpa Ruckus from the Boondocks who had like a beef with Rosa Parks or something?
Oh my god.
Yeah, I think so.
Who's the
in the
grandpa in the Boondocks?
Granddad is
Granddad.
Yeah,
Okay.
Granddad.
Oh, I'm thinking of Uncle Ruckus. Okay.
Yeah.
I remember there was one plot of like the Boondocks of like Granddad had like a beef with Rosa Parks.
Yeah.
That's what else do I do?
Oh man.
Yeah, other than kind of the main lead, were there any like voice actors of like any of the other Spider people or like villains that you like really loved or like feel like that just nailed that character?
I mean, I think they did a great job with the casting for every character, to be honest. That's another thing I don't really have a complaint for. I think even characters that had really small roles, like Hobie, Jessica Drew, even Miguel, I thought were all really well casted. Like I think Oscar Isaac did a phenomenal job as Miguel. Like,
oh yeah,
this is where he was supposed to be intimidating and scary. I felt scared and I felt intimidated. The same thing with I forget the name of the actor who does the voice of the Spot, but the same
Jason
for him.
Schwartzman.
Yeah, like even him, like when the scenes where he's supposed to be like goofy and not serious, I felt that.
Yeah.
When he got serious, I felt it. So yeah, I think overall with their voice casting, I think it's very, very solid. I don't have any complaints.
It's kind of one of those things of like when you say, "Oh, what's your favorite?" You said there's kind of so much you could choose from when it comes to these movies. That's just like, wow, you really just like it's like you kind of end up just picking them all in terms of love. I was gonna say I was thinking of like which came out first, the MCU. No Way Home or Spider-Verse. I remember Spider-Verse came out first, and it's cool how Spider-Verse also somewhat influenced that as well. I still like Spider-Verse more, but it's always great to see like Willem Dafoe and like Alfred Molina and stuff like that.
Oh my God, Willem Dafoe in No Way Home is just
just a
my God,
true great psychopath,
masterful. He had the black Air Forces on. He was just. My God. Yeah, that performance of his was just like, and I think he elevated everyone. He made everyone better, and that's what great actors do. Like all his scenes with Tom, when Tom's like punching him and really trying to land those punches, and he's just eating them. Like you could see the frustration in his face, and I'm like, I believe it. I really do feel like you're trying to beat up a sociopath here, and it is to no avail. Like, man, no, some really, really great stuff.
I have a question, because this has been somewhat of a debate ever since like the first MCU Spider-Man. But what would you guys think of like? Would you be yay or like no to like Miles potentially joining the MCU or anything live action?
Well, they said they're already doing it. Amy Pascal,
Yeah.
some of the pictures, they said they're already doing it. So, I mean, it is what it is at this point. I mean, I personally have very strong feelings about animated bodies of work being brought over into live action, but I knew with the character Miles that it was inevitable. I feel like to a certain extent, like if we're being honest, I feel like one of the reasons he wasn't even introduced into the MCU officially in the first place is because they were afraid. I think they were kind of scared. They didn't really know if it would take off. And I feel like they intentionally used the medium of animation because we know nobody respects animation as being like their little tester to be like, let me see how people feel about this.
It's
like,
interesting.
We have it in the comics. Let's make an animated movie and let's see how people feel. And when they saw that the reaction was, the overwhelming response of praise, and they were like, oh, well, okay, well, yeah, now we can actually double down and do this for sure. But I genuinely think that's the reason why it wasn't that case to begin with.
It's interesting how the MCU like almost inadvertently forced that the the team behind like Miles and Spider-Verse to like evolve to a degree of like, okay, well, we can't use this because the MCU said no, or they already did this. So why don't we do our own thing? And that's kind of the whole ends up kind of being the whole message of the first movie, especially with Peter B. Parker, who just the I still think about that one line of his lines of like, I was in my apartment, getting shredded, doing push-ups,
crying,
eating pizza,
getting ripped, getting strong.
Yeah, getting strong, stuff like that. Stuff like that. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, really, that's not like a whole ton to complain with the second movie. I am curious. I want like other opinions though. Like outside of Spider-Verse, what would your favorite Spider-Man thing be in general? It could be a comic, video game, a show.
Outside of Spider-Verse, dang, because that's kind of
Spectacular Spider-Man is really great.
Yeah, it's up there for me.
Spectacular Spider-Man, man. Which is why I was so happy when they got that little scene across.
Oh yeah, little
like,
guy.
And I was like, oh, that was great. Spectacular Spider-Man for sure. The 1980 Spider-Man, Spider-Man the animated series. If you were to look at the first Spider-Man game, the first Insomniac Spider-Man game, as like a movie, like if you just like watch like all the cutscenes cut together as a story, I think that's honestly probably one of the better like Spider-Man movies we've ever had.
Yeah, like
as a story, it's very, very solid. So I would put that first Spider-Man game as like a story, like up there with some of the best Spider-Man media fiction. Yeah, that's all I got. Yeah. That's all I got. Those are all my.
Yeah. No, I mean they're all very good options. It's kind of like everyone's favorite when they talk about them. Like there's always like Spider-Verse and Spectacular Spider-Man, all that stuff.
Oh, Spider-Man 2. How could I forget?
Oh yeah, Separate. Yeah.
The gold. The absolute gold that is Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2. Yes, Sam Raimi Spider-Man 2. Oh my god.
And, well, I do actually like I'd say a good like portion of the movies. Like I do still like Tom Holland's portrayal of Spider-Man. I get that it's different and all that stuff. I say my favorite kind of live action actor for Spider-Man has always been like probably Andrew Garfield as just like the actor. Like when it comes to casting, like him in 2 is kind of like what I feel like Spider-Man should like look and kind of like act and sound like and stuff like that. Kind of wish he had a better script, but yeah, I like the more kind of like almost understandably angsty reaction he has at times without going like full like dick. Of like, yeah, no, because the thing is, kind of gets lost with Tom Holland's performance a bit. Is that like Peter can be kind of an asshole at times, and in the Tom Holland movie, he comes off as very like cute and soft for most of it.
I kind of like that version of Peter.
I still like it.
I like that. I think like I love Andrew and I really love his performance. I think his performance as Spider-Man, when he's Spider-Man, is the most spider-like, and I'll give him that. But the one issue I've kind of always had with Spider-Man is that like his version of Peter Parker is like he's too handsome. It doesn't sound like a real critique, but it's like he's too handsome. It's like I don't believe you're Peter Parker. I don't believe somebody would beat you up and stuff you in a locker. I don't believe that.
Well, yeah, it had the problem kind of starting it in high school again. It's like just have him be in college. Just like have him be a few years into being Spider-Man, which was always kind of a frustrating thing. Slight diversion, but like would you say there's any like kind of more modern superhero shows you're a really big fan of or anything like that, or superhero stuff you got really into?
Doom Patrol, Invincible, The Boys. What else is modern? It's really great right now.
Animation wise, the one I've gotten into has been, other than like Invincible, which we've talked about, was Moon Girl and the Devil Dinosaur.
Oh my gosh!
Animation wise, beautiful. Actually, kind of influenced kind of like my animation style, but or like some of the designs when it came to like Miss Manhattan. Just like Clip Flying Bark Studios is kind of like the one thing that could kind of rival all the Spyverse stuff. Just like how fluid and like how cool the action scenes are, and like how angular the designs are. But
My Adventures with Superman, that's pretty good too.
oh yeah, funny enough, Jack Quaid was also he was also the Peter Parker in Gwen's universe.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He's been everywhere. Yeah, he
yeah.
usually pops up and all that stuff.
Yeah, which is funny. That.
I love how they have his face next to Miles Morales. Like, hey, look, like he's voicing Miles Morales.
That's what I'm saying. I was like, that's why.
Yeah,
he's voicing him.
Like, that's why.
Why
Is he right there?
Ooh, this one too.
Yeah,
Wow.
like Miles Morales. Like, oh shit, I'm voiced by a white man. What the hell?
Yeah, we're past that era when it comes to animation.
Yeah, like damn. Okay, there you go.
Yeah,
that's wild time. There we go. Shout out to
yeah, but yeah, he had a. Honestly, though, Jack Quaid is like Peter Parker's like that's not bad casting.
It was not at all, not at all. Like definitely nailed the voice, nailed the characterization. Like, yeah, if somebody wanted to make another animated thing with Jack Quaid as voice of Peter Parker, I'd be here for it.
Yeah, all the stuff. Yeah. Trying to think, wasn't there another superhero show? Probably not thinking about it right. Oh, God, just shot, just wow, lost stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had like pretty solid cast, and like I am digging like the more kind of like out there like takes with like I do hope like other superhero characters that are kind of more maybe start out as like B-listers or like C-listers kind of get more time to shine, because I remember even the MCU had that of like when Iron Man was first like being a thing. Like Iron Man was
like a D-list character. Yeah.
In a lot of ways, now he's like one of the big like three, because the big three used to be like Iron Man, Wolverine,
Spider-Man.
It used to be Hulk, Wolverine, Spider-Man, but now it's kind of Iron Man, Wolverine, Spider-Man. Okay, yeah, one more. Is there anyone else like Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery you're a big fan of? Like, do you have a favorite villain for him to go up against?
Favorite villain? Man, I always love me some Spidey Green Goblin action. You can never go wrong with that. Still haven't really gotten a legitimate Spidey versus Venom. We do not acknowledge that film that came out in 2007 by Sam Raimi.
Yeah.
We don't acknowledge that. So we haven't really gotten a good Spider-Man Venom interaction. I would love to actually see that in live action. Man, what else really great Spider-Man villains? I mean, I think Kingpin's a really great Spider-Man villain, but obviously they're doing a bunch of other stuff with like Kingpin in the MCU right now. I love Vincent D'Onofrio's performance as Kingpin. My God, I feel like he, in the same way that Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man, like I am starting to feel that way about his performance as Kingpin. I really can't see anyone else.
I actually might see Echo, just because like even though I'm kind of like I'm not super into MCU stuff for a bit, it's like I really liked him in Daredevil. Like the Echo thing looks intriguing.
Kingpin, man.
Yeah, are you reviewing that, Josh, or like doing?
Yeah, we did. It's editing right now, so it'll be up. Yeah, it'll be up soon.
Do you have a favorite villain for Spider-Man to go up against?
Probably basic choice, Doc Ock.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always like interesting enough because he was just in 2, but I always really like Kraven when he's like, properly utilized, kind of like
not that Kraven.
Yeah.
That's White Panther right there, man.
Mm-hmm.
White Panther.
Oh boy.
There you go.
Yeah, Sergei Krafnoff is just like a terrifying physical man, and just like who's pushed it. He's almost like, in a weird way, he's almost like Marvel's Batman, who's just like he's just a normal man, just through sheer insanity and training has like pushed himself to like superhuman levels of physicality, and can like go up against superhumans with just like hunting weapons. Yeah, he's like, also based on the Last Hunt book and like the Hunt movie. But yeah, all this, like, he, like, Spider-Man in a lot of ways is Marvel's Batman. Like, he does have the biggest rogues gallery and probably like the most like recognizable ones. The only one I'd say maybe comes closest, like Fantastic Four, to a degree. Maybe Iron Man now.
Maybe. Yeah, that's a fair assessment.
Stuff like that.
Are you excited to see White Panther?
Craven movie, yeah. Who's in that?
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Aaron Taylor Johnson. What?
Russell Crowe's in it.
Why?
Wow.
I would love to be a fly in the wall for the executives at Sony. I really want to know what's going on in that room. I want to know, as they're looking through all of their slates of characters that they own from Marvel, and they're like, how can we further continue to milk this cash cow that is Spider-Man? How can we do this? I know.
All that
Craven movie. One that doesn't feature Spider-Man. A Craven movie. And who are we gonna get to play this, physically imposing, being of Russian descent?
Okay.
Aaron Taylor Johnson. Yeah. Like,
it's Morbin time.
Yeah.
It's Morbin.
We're going down that road again.
Oh my god.
This and the whole Madam Web thing this is getting weird with like
what's happening?
The whole kind of Morbin time kind of lost steam when Jared Leto hopped on it, and everybody's like, okay, it's
oh yeah.
It's dead now.
It's dead now.
Yeah.
You hopped on it now.
Well, yeah. It's just because of like the whole Spider-Man show, because they had like certain rights to characters that were like Craven and like Madam Web and stuff like that. Well,
this has to do with the initial deal that they struck back in the 90s when Marvel was bankrupt and they sold off all of their characters. Yeah. They only recently reached that agreement with the character Spider-Man itself.
Yeah, very recently.
Like joint custody between like them and Disney. But yeah, there's still a couple of the other characters from Spider-Man's universe that Sony still has the rights to. And the way that those rights work is basically after a certain amount of years, if they don't put out a movie with them, then the rights revert back. Mm-hmm. So I guess Craven was one of those things on the list. So they were like, hurry up, let's make that Craven movie so we can hold on to those Craven rights.
Yeah.
To what avail? Like, I don't know. Like, are they thinking like, oh, it'll be like a kind of Venom situation where it'll be like, will people like this character? And maybe it's like,
that has Tom Hardy.
I don't.
Yeah.
Venom is a popular character. I don't really like him, but he is very popular. So it made sense kind of to turn him into a movie. But then all these other people, like Madam Web, nobody knows who the fuck Madam Web is.
Yeah. It's like, Yeah, it does feel like one of those legal disputes. And yeah, it's just, as of late, it's just nuts.
And of all the characters, my thing is, it just feels like if you're gonna make like all of these like D-list, F-list characters, and make them into like their own movies, like at least do it from an interesting vantage point. Yeah.
Well, now they're making a Danny Phantom live action.
I heard about it. I hate it.
Yeah.
Oh, are they? I thought that was just like, oh, that's real.
No, it's actually happening. I hate it. I hate it so much.
Well, it's also like, what's he? He's 14 in the show, and it's like casting that in like live action is going to look.
Why? Yeah. Why does no one respect the medium of animation? I just want to know why.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, they made what was it, Kim Possible live action?
That's right. Yeah.
Why? Who's asking for this?
It's probably a legal dispute with Disney.
That's what I'm like. What is it? Yeah. It's got to be something because what is going on?
They were gonna make live action Powerpuff Girls, but I got canned.
Oh yeah,
they did because it was because fortunately someone had the good sense to look back at that footage and go, you know what? This is terrible.
Yeah.
This is a bad idea. We should not do this.
Anyway, we're going to wrap up soon, but before, I just want to ask you a few questions, Lamar, about your series Captain Zero. I'm just curious, would you say there was a superhero that influenced Captain Xerxes, or was there like did anything like influence like was there a Spider-Man influence, or like when it came to the animation stuff when it comes to series?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, when it comes to the character Captain Zero itself, there's undeniable like Spider-Man influence in there directly. Like growing up, Spider-Man was always one of my favorite characters. Spider-Man 2 is the first movie I ever saw in theaters. The first Spider-Man was the first like movie I ever watched on like a DVD. And Spider-Man the animated series was like a show I love watching growing up like every single Saturday. Like so there's definitely a huge undeniable Spider-Man influence. I mean, Miles aside, in all honesty, I kind of looked at Captain Zero as kind of being like, what if Peter Parker was black? And I mean, no shade to Miles, but even because of the people who write Miles and the fact that he's in, PG-13 movies and whatnot, there still is a certain kind of limit as to how Miles can depict his blackness with a certain level of authenticity. So what I've always wanted to create with Captain Zero is a true, honest portrayal of this is actually what a black Peter Parker would look like. This is what his day would be like. This is what he would go through. This is what he would experience. Because there are certain things that, Peter Parker in his particular experience that would be, different if it was happening to like a black kid.
Oh no, yeah, totally.
Like, the hate that J. Jonah Jameson gives Spider-Man would be a very different kind of hate. If he was a black kid and he like knowingly that he was black, it would be a very different kind of hate. So these are all the things that I kind of wanted to like showcase, and not just that, but also just how that lived life experience would differ, how his home life would be different, how his relationship with his friends would be different. All of those kinds of things. So Spider-Man, definitely yes. Static Shock as well. I also grew up watching that show. Super big influence, especially with just being able to see myself, my live life experience reflected. I was like, holy shit, there's a show where a black kid is the main superhero. Like, he's not like the sidekick or like the little side character or like the person saying like, oh hell no, like randomly. Like it's actually his show and his story, and there's depth to it, there's nuance to it, and I absolutely love that. So Static Shock, 100%. Those are probably like the two biggest. Like I said just on Twitter like the other day, like Static, like what Daredevil is to the Ninja Turtles is what Captain Zero is to Spider-Man.
Yeah, okay, that's a really cool, but
like that's pretty much the way that I look at everything involving this world. Even if you kind of look at like Captain Zero's Rogues Gallery, it's like some of these characters are almost very similar analogs to other Spider-Man villains, but just in a way that's more specific to this character in their world. Like if you see the character Local Florida Man, who you can make interesting parallel to like the Lizard, but like Captain Zero actually lives in Florida. So it's like there is already a deeper connection as to why there's this giant purple alligator looking monster that's terrorizing his city versus Spider-Man, who like lives in New York. Like sometimes he talks about Dr. Connors visiting or coming back from Miami or the Everglades, but like in Captain Zero, it's like he lives in Florida. Like that's actually something he would see and encounter. So to have a villain like that in his Rogues Gallery makes more sense actually.
Oh no, yeah, totally. Yeah, you totally get that. What's definitely pushed. It's just for a while, New York just had that dominance over the superhero city, just because of like back then, like it was considered kind of like lower work at the time. That's why like there's like a lot of like Jewish influence when it comes to both like superhero stuff, but also specifically like older films and Broadway. And like this is like, oh, once you realize like the history of it, like, oh yeah, that makes so much sense. But it's like, yeah, you want to see newer, more stuff now, especially that like the field is more like open. It's just not like people from the 30s and stuff like writing that kind of stuff. And that's kind of the benefit of indie animation stuff. I was going to say something about this. Oh yeah, have you ever thought of like hiring like if you do go to like hire more actors, do you ever think of like getting like a Bill Burr to just yell at Captain Zero and say something like just really mean?
Oh my god! Oh yes, 100%. And that's actually that was actually a perfect casting choice. Yeah, I would 100% get someone like Bill Burr to be like my version of J. Jonah Jameson or something. Like that would be amazing. I would love that. I would love that. No,
yeah. 100%. Oh no, yeah, totally. And it's like one of those things how you just want to like both see yourself, but also just like see different aspects that don't really get represented too much in certain degrees, like especially in like kind of superhero stuff. And it's all what was I gonna say? Yeah, would you say that there's a well, obviously you have Captain Zero and you have Keith David as the Depression Demon. Do you have like a villain or a character you think is going to be like the big standout? Because I've seen some arts that you've made for some of these characters.
Oh yeah.
No,
I've
seen the blue chick.
Oblivion.
Oblivion.
Yes, listen, Oblivion. I know 100. Like, she didn't like. You get to see her in part 1. There's this little scene where you get to see her where he's describing some of the shit he has to go through.
Mm-hmm.
But in this part 2, you're actually going to see Oblivion. You're going to hear Oblivion. There's a whole interaction. There's a whole fight sequence that happens between the two of them. And when people see Oblivion, there's no doubt in my mind that everyone will become like the biggest Oblivion stans. Like, she 100% is going to stand out as one of those characters. I know, like, I just feel it in my bones, because she's one of those characters. Just like, man, if you hate her, you love to hate her, but there's also a part of you that kind of feels like,
you understand.
She's not wrong though. Like, you feel where she's coming from, you know?
Yeah. You got a incredible standout cast of like, you got the Keith Davids, Cody Galloway, all this stuff, and it really shows that, like,
Zoe Briggs, Marion Toro, you
can definitely see some of the. Well, of course, there's only so many designs you can do, especially if you want to do like an animal design of like kind of the more weirder bug theme villains that Spider-Man has. Of like what was it, the beetle that he has? It's like, you can totally see that here. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you designed the majority of these characters, correct?
I designed all of them.
Yes,
all of the posters that you're looking at.
It's just. Keith David in it, which is probably a big enough draw for most people.
Just 100%. Anytime honestly, both Keith and Angelica, everyone has their own pools. Very interesting. Like, everyone has like their own, little fan base. Like, there's a whole bunch of like Wu-Tang Clan people that were really excited when we told people that we have Zoli, doing the voice of Butterfly Girl. A whole bunch of Final Space fans who were really, really excited when we told them that we have Coty.
Yeah, Coty's great.
Characters. A whole lot of Pose and FX fans, and lots of members of the LGBTQ plus IA community when we announced that we had Angelica on. And then Keith, like, that just pretty much brought in like all the animation people, all like the film world. Like, that was definitely one of the biggest draws, and even helping out the show in other respects. Like, the minute we tell any interested buyer, funder, financer, producer, we're like, oh yeah, we've got Keith David part of this project. Like, Keith David?
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, that Keith David.
It's one of those things where, like, when you hear it, you're like, oh shit, Keith David. Like, he's in here. Just give me a second.
I love that drawing, the depression.
Yeah, and wrong one. Your Kickstarter was successful. Here it is.
Yes.
Do you want to point out any merch people can buy to support you?
So we are our merch site is actually currently down right now. And the reason why is because we're actually getting ready to launch Kickstarter. And that's going to be to raise the funds for our film festival run we're pretty much going to go on. It's going to start in June and carry all the way into the end of the year. We're going to be going to 7 different film festivals, and obviously we're going to want to bring the cast, as many that are available and want to come. We're also going to try to bring a couple of our crew members as well, and pretty much everyone that is able to go that worked a part of this project. I know that because of various touring schedules and stuff like that, we're not going to be able to bring everyone, but I know at least for the premiere, which is going to be in June, we want to try to bring as much of the cast and crew as we can. So we're going to have a second Kickstarter that's going to be raised. That's going to be significantly less than what our first one was. The first one was to raise $35,000. We raised $36,000, which is crazy. Yeah. This one's going to be for $10,000. So a whole lot less, but with that money, we're going to be able to, go to all these different places. We're going to be in New York, LA, Chicago, Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts, and France. We're going to be
cool. Yeah,
we're going to be in Cannes. We're going to their short film festival.
Yeah, I might be able to see this in Chicago if I have enough time.
Oh man, no, I would love for you to pull up to be able to see it, because we're not going to be able to put it anywhere publicly for a while.
No, I get that. I get that.
Even right now, because of everything we're doing with the film festivals. So we are doing a thing where if people want to see it while we are on our run, 1 week before our debut in June, we are having a private virtual screening. So anybody that buys tickets for that, so that is actually on my website. If you go to the homepage, you can go there and you can buy tickets for the virtual screening. And then we're also going to have that exact same reward tier available for our second Kickstarter. So you can either go to my website or on the second Kickstarter once we get that launched. That's going to launch in February. But yeah, we've got the date, time, and everything. It's going to be like a whole special little soiree. It's going to be me. It's going to be my co-writer, Andre Enko. We're going to be hosting the evening. We're going to start off with like a little introduction, give a little backstory as to the overall production process, what it took to make it. Then we're going to run it for everyone to show. We're probably going to play it twice because anytime we do these things, people always want to see them twice. So we're probably going to play it twice. And then after that, we're going to do a Q&A and open it up to the audience, and anyone who has questions can ask us questions about what it was like, the production process or the show or the future of the series and all of that jazz.
Alrighty. Yeah, that's very cool. I'm just going to bring up one thing really quick before we end this. Our Mr. Manhattan thing is going along very, very well. Hopefully, after some contracts are finished, as well as like our Animax a bit more done, we'll be able to fully present the pilot Animax form. This was influenced by series such as Static Shock and Danny Phantom, but more from a girl's perspective of a girl of Russian descent living in New York, having to deal with magical aspects. Part of the goal of the series is to kind of explore more. We'll also present fun magical adventures. It's also to explore more like Slavic themes and Eastern European cultures as well. Kind of the things that be mixed. In the meantime, let me just get to
this animatic was really solid.
Oh yeah. Me and my buddy Kevin were working on this really close. The benefit was that originally the script was to be for a graphic novel. However, sadly, the person I was working with as a graphic novel, she got sick, and family business came out. She wasn't able to continue it, but we were able to work off of that. And yeah, also I don't remember even how we met, but I do remember as we met, we started talking about stuff like Rise of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Moon Girl, and we just hit off that animation wise. And in the meantime, our Howling Hoods is nearly complete. We have a few more shots to do. Yeah. A little out of context there to see a Birdman and a weird demon guy. But yeah, hopefully stick around. You'll be able to see the whole thing soon. If you like mix and matches of fairy tales as well as different relation, a couple basically just working stuff out on their own adventures. Make sure to tune into that. For the most part, this is self-funded. We are going to do a very, very, very small Kickstarter soon, but with some of the stuff I've been doing, I've been able to get this more funded. Stick around for that. Lamar Chair, thank you very much for coming on. I look forward to seeing Captain Zero. And yeah, thanks for
likewise. I'm looking forward to seeing all of your projects, man. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Yeah, and thanks for talking about Spider-Man. All right, have a good one, folks.
You guys.